some coding. Must be mad. But I want to keep this project moving, so why on earth not? Evening, everybody. I don't know who's here. If you're here, say hello. Always good to check it's working. Say hi in the chat, and let's get cracking. Just waiting for Unity. Hey, Dambio, you are becoming our most loyal follower of these streams. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you for being a subscriber. Awesome. So I'm waiting for Unity to import my project. So I'm going to give you everybody the link to the repo where I am. It's the part 2 repo. The project state that I am busy building right now is here. So where we're at, hey Twitch dog even, where we're at is there. That is awesome. So just going to bring up my Twitch dashboard on the left hand side just so I can keep an eye, make sure that everything is good and stable. And yes, we should be in good shape. So as soon as Unity's opened, I'm going to start dusting off, and it's literally going to be dusting off the RPG. It's been so long. By the way, can you guys hear me okay? Blue Knight 1, welcome. And I'm not quite sure what that emote is. It looks a bit like this. Kind of a mouth to the side thing. Anyway, audio video is great, awesome, good news. So just waiting for Unity to finish its thing. So of course, when you remove the library folder in Unity, then what's going to happen is that when you reopen the project, because those things are ignored in the git ignore, you are going to end up with a load of new things being generated, typically into this, mainly into the library folder. So the size of that folder will be growing rapidly as Unity goes ahead and caches a load of things, basically. So that's what we're waiting for there. It's taken about 5 times longer than I'd have expected in this particular instance, but that's okay. We won't do clean checkouts after this. From now on, we'll just go rapidly through it. So we've decided what the first thing we want to do is from a game design point of view on this RPG. We're going to do inventory. And no, we're not. We're going to do simple dialogue first. And then once we have simple dialogue, we'll talk about how to hang quests off the back of that dialogue. Hand up is waving or question, depends on the context. Hand up, as in waving or question, depends on the context. Oh, weren't such a small match, 3, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yep. I'm seeing the chat. Cool. By the way, have we got new motes? Let's have a look. GDTV. Yeah, we've got a few now. Ben, Leaf, Question, and Jan. If you've got a question, please use the GDTV queue. It really helps it stick out in the chat for me. All right, I'm going to rearrange my windows a little bit now that this puppy is ready. Minimize myself because you don't need too much of me. There I go into the top left of the screen, and then we'll crack on and do something quite. It's going to be slow TV this evening because firstly I'm feeling a little slow. I've got a belly full of barbecue, and secondly because getting back into a new project after a long time can be pretty painful. So that's fine. What I recommend when you try and get back into it is to actually touch the project a lot. Don't just sit there kind of vaguely looking at it. Touch it, do stuff with it, refactor it, move it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through this thing. I'm going to look at all my classes. I'm going to start to think about across the solution where inventory would fit. I'm going to try and deal with any errors that are coming up, and basically just get back in the game. I'm doing all this live with you guys. Whether I'll do the whole lot live, we'll see. But for the moment, it's live with you guys. So the movement paradigm here is you click on an area on the ground. If I remember, it uses NavMesh agent to work out what the pathing to that is. We've got some special abilities. That number 1 is like an area attack. But we have a no animation hit receiver. It's not really causing me a problem at the moment, so I will not worry about it. For the very moment. Healing, yeah, the particle effects that Rick created there, cool. They are in player space. I don't know if Rick wanted that. Probably did. It was quite good. That guy's fine. What does this do? Right click should be a power attack. Let's just go and try and find some Muppet to hit. See how that works. Reacquaint myself with the layout of the map as well. I love some of these particle effects Rick's done. He's done a great job with those. So let's take a look. What is this level all about? So this is Rick's village. So basically so far all we've done in this game is core combat. We've just focused on the ability to pick up weapons. We had quite a nice weapon pickup system if I remember it. Pick up weapons, attack, have a special ability, etc. So do I have a right click for a special? Let's see. It's still got a gun sound on it. How ridiculous is that? Cool. Alrighty. Now, let's start looking at the code. How on earth did I organize this project? I hope you get into Unity very soon. I just called up on the content on Godot. Bindi, what do you mean? I hope to. Oh, you hope to get into Unity. I see. Yeah, I was going to say I'm pretty into Unity. Yes, that'd be awesome. So I'm going to reacquaint myself with how these assets are laid out. Oh, this would help. Setup and standards.txt. That was a good idea. Who wrote that? Let's have a little look at that. Setup and standards.doc. How handy is that? I put that right there in Unity, figuring that in the future that could be handy. Purpose of this short doc is to get us all on the same page regarding a few important things such as world scale layers, prefab setups, etc. Good. World scale, we'll be using Unity's default 1 meter equals 1 Unity unit. Good. Note animations don't scale well. True. Y equals 100 is the deepest water bottom. Oh, okay. So if I look at the level, all coming back to me now, then Y equals 100 or minus 100? What was that? Y is 100 meters, the deepest water bottoms. All terrains are at Y equals minus 100. Really? Yeah, looks like they are here, looking at the terrain. All right. Flatten the land to plus 100. Y equals 100 is the deepest water bottoms. The terrains are at Y equals minus 100. Flatten the land to plus 100. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The terrain sits at minus 100. The deepest water bottom is... I think that means minus 100. Is the deepest water bottom. I think the stock is wrong. And then the flatten the land to 100 to plus 100. Or maybe, I don't know. Well, I'm not doing terrain modeling now. Layers are walkable and enemy ramp angles for best practices. Oh, we've got a best practices doc. Oh yeah, I remember that. No, don't need to look at that now. Okay, cool. So camera UI. So we had this idea of a namespaced camera UI thing. What did that do? I think what that did is we were trying to say, let's put everything to do with the camera. How does the camera work on this guy? Literally, I'm not acting here. I have no idea how this works anymore, but I will do. The test of how well we put this together will be how quickly we can pick it back up again. So that's going to be a huge amount of fun. Remember, any questions, use GDTVQ. I need to just get myself some water in a second. Just a request from my lovely wife. She might well pop in and bring me some in a minute. So how is this camera working? We've got a player, has some fairy dust particles we can fire off, a critical hit, character pirate. So where is the main camera? That's really interesting. How did that work? Game setup, characters, enemies, NPCs, camera arm. Where's the camera arm? It's here. It must do something at runtime. Let's just play the game and see what happens at runtime. There you go. There's the camera. And if I move the player, the camera moves with it. So we've got some sort of camera follow script. Let's go have a quick look at that as a starting point. See how that works. Probably very simple. It probably just looks at the transform of the thing that it's attached to, or it goes and finds the player by name. Not sure. How does it follow? Oh, what are we opening here? TextMate, that's interesting. No. We don't want to open it with that. We want to open it with Visual Studio. You know what? I wonder if I have Visual Studio on here at the moment. Maybe I don't. This is the thing. As you go from one project, Visual Studio old, it's quite possible I don't. Well, I will work in TextMate for this evening, and I'll get my Visual Studio sorted out. So as you go from Python to Godot to Unreal, of course, all different tooling, and sometimes I end up removing and reinstalling IDEs. So we could use, I'm not going to use TextMate, I think I'm going to use Visual Studio Code this evening, because it's a pretty cool, lightweight IDE. Even if I don't have it on my system right now, I can get it, and you can even do full C# refactoring in it, and it's what we're going to be using in the Godot course. But I don't have it online, so let's go get it. Guys, Visual Studio Code, check it out, it's cool. Who uses Visual Studio Code? Oops, I can't type. It's going to be a good evening. There's a Unity RPG course. There is. I'm following your Unity 2. Is this Twitch series related to that course? No, Tataru, this series is related to the RPG course. I'll give you the link. There it is in the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and download Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to show you some cool extensions you can use. I use regular Visual Studio with ReSharper and considering using Rider. Yeah, ReSharper is supposed to be pretty cool, right? I've not actually yet tried it. So let's get Visual Studio Code because it's small and simple. You're welcome. You are welcome. I wonder if I need to get into code this evening, or should I just focus on the the engine structure, you know, the editor structure of this game. I think until I need to, I won't get into the code. So I can preview, of course, this camera follow script just over here in the inspector. Ugly, but look, it is as simple as I thought. We find a game object with a tag, in this case player, and then we just, in late update, after the movement has settled, we just set the position of the camera to, or the position of the camera arm. Okay, so it's a camera arm. Camera's on the end of the arm, I suspect. There it is, the main camera. You just move the camera arm, you pin the end of the camera arm, a bit like a gimbal, to the player. Okay, here for VS. Yeah, VS, they did well, Microsoft, didn't they, with VS? Have I tried the Visiforum plugin for Visual Studio? I can post a link if you want. It's very useful for newer programmers. No, I'd be interested to see that. Thank you very much. I don't think I've even got Visual Studio on here. I could get it going in the background. So that's Visual Studio Code if we want Visual Studio Mac. Will it work for Visual Studio Mac? We'll find out. Because Visual Studio Mac, of course, is kind of a redo of Xamarin, I think. Xamarin Studio. Unless you were some sort of Sado weirdest and went with a 3D camera. Did you, Mark? Tell us about that. Tell us how that went for you. What did you do with the 3D camera? Color coordinates, everything. You find it really handy. Cool. Good to know. I'm going to ignore their survey because I'm horrible. All right. So the camera UI, I think the idea of all of the stuff in here is just related to the camera. So these affordances, like affordances, of course, tell a way of communicating to the player what's possible to do. So this arrow is saying I can go here. I suspect we've got other things like an attack affordance. We have it subtly. It's too subtle, actually. Note to self, it is too subtle. That changing to a sword is just, it's not really visible enough. The arrow maybe could be the other way. It might be annoying if it's the other way, but the sword is just too similar. Quaternions are a nightmare when lerping. Okay. Yep, I can imagine. How's that going for you, Mark? All right, let's move through. So that is my UI stuff. Characters. What on earth went on here? Why do we have audio under characters? Okay, because this is a character death sounds. Enemies. A bunch of different enemy prefabs. Let's try dropping one of these dudes in the sea and what happens there. You just get an enemy knight prefab. All right. No nested prefabs, I don't think, just yet in Unity 2018.2. I don't think we've got nested prefabs yet. I'm not sure what you have to do for nested prefabs. Is it in the package manager? Anybody know where in Unity the nested prefabs are hanging out right now? Because we could use nested prefabs here, I think. Not sure it's in the package manager. I'm not sure where it is right now in the pipeline. I have to look it up. All right, so we've got a whole ton of enemies and sounds, etc., relating to them. A lot of content in this game, and we've only just kind of started. Materials relating to the characters, models, NPCs and all their sounds. As it says, this is a folder full of characters. Now, what on earth are we doing here? This is a general character script, has a lot of information about it. A lot of different serialized fields. Looks like we could potentially, if we're going to have multiple characters, take, whenever you see a whole ton of serialized fields like this, to my mind, that suggests you might want to have yourself a scriptable object. 2018.3 is it? Thank you, Twitch Dog. I thought they were very close. So where am I at the moment? I think I'm in 2018.2 I was just seeing. Is that right? Is that what I was just seeing? Yes, at the top of the screen. Okay, cool. So they are very, very close. So whenever you see at the top of a class a whole bunch of serialized field, it suggests if you're going to have multiple different characters, which we do, it suggests we might want to take that data out and put it into a scriptable object class. So we have some sort of character config class. So that is a strong possibility that we do that. Let me, I'm going to open this and start making myself some notes as a very minimum. Okay, what's this opened in? TextMate doesn't really matter. So I'm going to do a to-do, capital to-do like this. Consider a character config SO, scriptable object. Why? Because there's so much data here that this is almost a data class in its own right. It may be that we want to do that with the character. All right, I've also got a new thing since we started working on the RPG. I've got a new thing, and I've got a shortcut here, which I can paste in the chat if you like. It's called MO header, is it? MO header? Or header MB header. That's it. So that stuff I've just posted in the chat. Oh, no, it's not going to work in the chat. Okay, I'll just pop it in here. MB header. So maybe worth clipping this bit. It's pretty useful. What I'm thinking in Unity now is that a good paradigm at the top of your class is that you start with configuration parameters. It says there, consider an SO. Okay, already, so I've already done that with that block. And then the next thing down, I'm going to put the private instance variables for state. Okay, well, let's do that. Where are the private instance variables for state? I don't think we've got a lot of state. We'll come back to that in just a second. The cached references, typically for readability, sometimes for speed. They are in that block there, but there's also state. And then messages, then public methods, then private methods. Okay, well, I'll put that comment down here. So this gives us a structure to the top of our C# classes, gives us a kind of consistency. So scriptable objects, stroke data, parameters, configuration data first, done. Private instance variables for state. You wonder what these dots are. That's just the way that this text makes set up. All right, I'm not too fussed about it. So those three things there are private variables, and they're instance variables, and they look like their state. We'll have to see when we do a deeper code review whether they are valid state. Is turn amount, forward amount, and is alive, are they valid states of a character? Probably. They are probably valid states of a character, so it looks okay. And then our cached references are the navmesh agent, the animator, and the rigid body. Again, we've got to ask the question whether we should be caching these references or whether we should be finding them when we need them. We'll answer that question later. Excuse me, big yawn coming through. That's the problem with having a massive meal and then trying to look at this stuff. So what I'm doing right now is just making myself some comments, getting a feel for it. The code on first glance, so I'm not looking into the details of the code here, it looks clean on first glance. It looks like the method sizes are reasonable, nothing's too indented, nothing's too complicated. We've still got a few horrible things that tie into Unity's old classes about animation speed multipliers and weird stuff like that. Apply extra turn rotation. That's legacy from Unity's character class, but we'll live with it. We'll forgive them. All right, how are we doing from a version control point of view? Is it tracking all this? It should be. Characters and so on. I think so. There's a lot of little changes in here, and these are mainly, there's the class I just worked on. The rest of these changes are mainly just meta files that Unity is tracking that we really should keep under version control. Unfortunately, because it just messes up your file, makes things look quite ugly. All right, so how far I got? I got to the idea that the character has a massive character class, a very basic dominant hand script, does actually nothing. Look at that. This is using a class purely for tagging. It just tags to say, hey, anything that's got this on it is a dominant hand. So that's a very thin class. It may not survive my refactor. Then we've got health systems. Pretty good setup. We've got our parameters, we've got constants, we've got some state variables, we've got some cache references just above those. We've got a pure getter here, I think. Yep. So that's health as percentage. Quite a good getter, this one. I like it when a getter like this actually does something, right? So internally, the health system knows about current health points and max health points, but we actually get a percentage. That's cool. Michael Bridges just arrived. Hey mate, don't know, you have not missed much. I am just basically in this video I'm gonna go through the RPG, reacquainting myself with it, just trying to rebuild the mental model in a fuzzy way, just trying to get an idea as to, wow, how does this work, how's it put together. And I've got stuck just going through in the meat of the fact that characters actually have a lot of details, and they have a major character class, a dominant hand, a health system. They have this special abilities. Now if I remember, this special abilities code was rather cool. Let's make this bigger and take a look at it. I'm aware that on the stream you may not be able to see this code otherwise. So what does a special ability do? Attach initial abilities, seems to go through an abilities array. Yep. So you make, if I remember, on a character, you make scriptable objects for special abilities. Where are they? Abilities. There you go. There's an array of abilities, and then you have these ability scriptable objects that have general attributes, like the fact they have all special abilities have an energy cost, they have a particle effect they give off, they have an animation, and they have one or more audio clips to select from. And then for a given special ability, you get into the specific stuff for that special ability, which is pretty cool. So I have to remember how all that works shortly. What is this? This is the special ability mono behavior. There's also somewhere in this project, if I just re-show my face, there's also going to be a special ability data class of some sort. That'll be there, the ability conflict class. And this is the thing here. So that stuff you just saw in the inspector, this is where we said that the general special ability stuff is this. And then we have a protected ability behavior. Oh, wow. And then what happened there? So inheriting, it's the only place I think in any of our courses so far we've used inheritance. So once you've got a general special ability, you can extend that or aggregate that into more specific behavior. Particle cleanup delays, play particle effects. This is still generic stuff. Where do we get into defining the behavior of a specific special ability? Here, area attack. And then you've got an area attack config, which is where you put in the data of an area attack. So this, if I was to look at an area attack in the inspector, which I think is what the player's currently got selected actually, area attack, yep. Then we're going to see the general stuff, then radius and damage to each target. Now that's specific to area effect, radius and damage to each target, and then you go off and do it. And then the really cool thing about the architecture that we put together is that we made it possible to have arbitrary area effect behaviors. And how on earth we did that? Good question. So we extended ability behavior. We inherited from ability behavior. What did ability behavior do? So I'm going to look at the ability behavior class, and then I'm going to look next to it at a particular behavior, like the area effect behavior, and just see if I can remember what on earth this did. It's not too complicated. So ability behavior inherits from mono behavior, like practically every script we write inside Unity. That's fine. We have a protected ability config. Okay, so we're specifying an ability configuration. Have some default stuff, and then here you go. This is the bit. We used an abstract method. We said there's a public abstract void that is used, and we specify potentially a game object. So we can use this as a special ability on any game object. And then in each of the actual effect behaviors, we inherit from ability behavior. Then we override the use, and we tell it what to do. In this case, we play the sound, we deal radial damage. That's interesting. Now, this is inheritance over composition, you guys. Totally different. You may be asking, I don't know how many of you have never used inheritance before, but you may be asking, where's this playability sound method? It's not in. In fact, I've only got one method inside this class, which is deal radial damage. And yeah, sure, I should be refactoring some of this stuff out. Let me see if, no, it won't factor out in this tool. But where's this method? There's deal radial damage. Where's that and where's that? Well, that's the cool thing about inheritance is I can play ability sound. It'll do it in the parent class. There it is on the left. I can play ability animation. I can play particle effect. The only method in here that is different about area effect is the dealing the radial damage. So that's pretty cool. And you can decide for each one, do we play a sound? Do we play a particle effect? Do we play an animation? And you can get that ability with just a single line of code. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, okay. So that was really part of the crux of this. That was like one of the best bits. I'm just going to get the chat back up. Wow, I'm tired again. I've really got to start streaming at a different time of day or moving to a different country because no good for the overlap with you American guys. Far too slow today. Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to be doing anything too clever, Mark. I need to go grab myself a glass of water. Give me just a second. I'll see if there's some outside. If there's not, then I shall be back in just a moment. No water. Okay, let's try another quick message to my wonderful wife. See if that works out. All right, so we were going through the folders and we decided that, okay, they're quite nuanced, these characters. So I'm going to move on for a moment from characters and see what else is going on and lurking in this project. Core. What's the idea of core? A spin me script. We used that on the windmill to make its little arms move around, bless it. We had core may not survive my refactors, we shall see. Whole bunch of stuff specific to environment, a whole bunch of levels. That's fine. I think the levels actually it's only Rick's Village that's kind of interesting. It's more like Misk. A new time for these would be pretty awesome. Yeah, what time would be good, guys? It would be better if it was a better time of day from the UK. I'd rather be streaming like 4 p.m. UK time, which is about 5 hours earlier than this. Would this work for you guys? Oh, this is where our assets are all stored in the showcase. Village 2. How far did Rick get with Village 2? Some of this I never even saw. I didn't watch the last few videos of the RPG after Rick had been working on it. I wonder how far he got with his second village. Not sure what the deal is here with this village. Okay, no worries. We have levels. We're not dealing with levels right now. Asset packs are asset packs. We'll leave those. And Pro Builder data, that must be brand new. And this new package management system. So we've got analytics and in-app purchasing and Unity ads and Text Mesh Pro. That's cool. That's packages. We can close that down. We may move some of these asset packs into packages once I understand more about how Unity's using these packages folders. Probably not, but possibly. Okay, so really... Oh, excuse me. The overlap with the US will generally be during the working day, so no way to please everybody. I can hit about 50% and give or take. The rest I can watch the replays. Cool, good to know, Twitch Dog. I could throw up a survey in a minute about who wants these streams when, but give me just a moment. I want to check the stream health. Firstly, looks like it's good. That's good news. I want to check the viewer numbers, 27, which matches roughly what I got on my Stream Deck, so I can close that. I don't think we've had any trouble, have we? No dropped frames, no funny business. That's all good news. All right. It's 9:30 p.m. here in the UK. Yep. 5 hours early would be pretty awesome for me. Be 10 p.m. instead of 3 a.m. Wow, Jason Lee Dev, where are you that it's 3 a.m.? I ought to be able to work that out. I could use World Time Buddy. Let me do that really quickly. Let me take a guess at where you are then if it's 3 a.m. You've got to be in the east, in the far east. So, yeah, where are you in the far east, Jason Lee Dev? I think Singapore, maybe? Oh, have I got the time wrong? I don't know. I'm not even going to attempt to write a single line of code tonight. I'm literally just going to try and load the mental model. Too tired, far too tired to be loading this stuff in. So, Jason Lee Dev, where are we in the world? Pretty close to Rick, actually. Thailand. Okay, so far east. Yeah. Same time zone as Singapore. All right. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we have all this rubbish about British summertime and GMT. It gets really, really, really confusing if we're not careful. So this water appears not to be coming. I think I need to go and sort my own water out. Should have done that before the start of the stream. So what can I leave you with as a little taster while we do that? I think what we ought to do is show you the scope of the first RPG. So let's just have a look at this page here. Just see where we were. So the first course is here. It's 50, how long is it? 42 hours of content. Gets you to core combat. Now, is there anything in here that is relevant to me doing what I'm trying to do today, which is understand what needs understanding in order to get to dialogue, simple dialogue? Probably not. Norway, 7 p.m. Yeah, time zones, hey, don't they suck? Aren't they a pain? I did that. By the way, if you wonder what this thing is on my dashboard, it's called Momentum Dash. It's really awesome. If you're using Chrome, I would suggest you go and get this thing, Momentum Chrome. I'll give you a link. And it's here. It's really beautiful, and it links up with a bunch of to-do apps. There it is, Momentum. Awesome. What do streamers normally do when they need to leave the room to go for a pee or to get a drink? Do I just leave it quiet in our case? And you guys can handle it because you're big grown-up boys, or what do we do? What do we do? So that's just like nothing on the screen. Any ideas would be welcomed. You're all subscribers tonight. Every single one of you. It's awesome. You're a die-hard lot. I'm going to get Visual Studio installing because that's going to be slow. Okay, I need to just go get this drink. So regardless of what you think I should do, usually a BRB screen with music. Yeah, what I've got to do is sort out BRB messages if you tap out. Yeah, I'm using just pure hardware here, so I can basically only show you what's on my screen. So I'd have to have something ready to go on the screen. Visual Studio Mac, that's what we need. All of that stuff there. I'll just get on with that. Should have the bandwidth to be doing that while we're... wow, look at that. Because it'd be better if I had Visual Studio in place, right? I can do proper refactoring and stuff. Cool. So I'll leave that going. I will probably leave you with the majesty of Rick's village. Oh, you know what? Mikey did us an amazing little animation through the village a while ago. See if I can find that. I don't want to spend too much time finding this stuff because, of course, it's a bit silly because I could have just gone and got my water. But let me just see if I can find this. Game Dev Core Courses, RPG, fly through. Yeah, I can find it pretty quick. How long is this? 1 minute. Oh, thank you. Water has just arrived. I'll show you, Rick, this fly through anyway. Thank you very much, honey. Just as I was getting parched. Let's look at this together. Something Mikey made for us. Should be able to get the sound if there is any sound. Oh, this is ages old. Very early stage assets here, of course. So this was Mikey putting a camera on a animation rig, basically, flying it through the world and just using it for promotional purposes. Oh, and there's a cake. Nice. Ads. Yeah, I don't really want to run ads. I could run ads, but at the end of the day, any of you subscribery people wouldn't be getting ads anyway, which is probably a good thing. So, inventory. Oh, let's think about it in the abstract then. I've got an idea what the project's like. I kind of remember now. That's what I wanted to get as far as. I vaguely remember how this goes together. You know, the solid principles. One of those is closed for modification but open for extension. If we think about solid, I ought to be able to add a new script here, which is called something like a dialogue system, very much like a health system here, right? And I ought to be able to add this on to the character without breaking the character in theory. So if we look at how, say, a health system works, health system comes along and says, there's some state, you know, there's some things about a health system. Where does it find the character? Here you go. It is assuming that there is a character, and we're getting slightly confused about whether character as a whole or character movement, so we'll do some renaming on that a little bit later. In fact, let's make myself the note now to do resolve name conflict between character as a class and character movement. Why am I calling the variable character movement when I'm calling the class type I'm finding is character? Anyway, when we do dialogue, we're going to want to do something a bit like this health system. It's probably going to inherit, it's going to be a component that inherits from mono behavior, probably, or it could be a class that inherits from the character and extends the ability of the character, in which case it would be a character or a interactable character or a talky character, talkative character. We could have a talkative character class that inherits from character, or we could have a dialogue component, dialogue system component, something like that, that's a mono behavior, but then goes and finds the character class and straps itself to it. There, you know, there's pros and cons of both of those. At the end of the day, those two different approaches, inheritance or composition, are very similar and probably in some cases compile down to a very similar code. So I want to create a dialogue system. No idea which of the many thousands of ways we could do this to do it. So I'm going to get a pen out and start having a little think about it. We can have a little think about it together. See if I've got my screen overlay program. Let myself draw. I think I have. Whee! There you go. That's good fun. So I've got a character. Let's just use this script as the visual example of a character. And in fact, we could actually use the player, couldn't we, for a second? So here's the player. Going to need a lot of data for all the dialogue. And that data, we talked about this in previous streams, is either going to be in JSON files or it could just be in scriptable objects. If we go look at a scriptable object file, like an area attack scriptable object, if we actually look at that file, you would lean heavily, perceptual lucidity games, you would lean heavily towards components. I do generally prefer the component architecture, I have to say. So I am leaning heavily towards components as well, particularly for this. Okay, so let me go open this with something sensible. These .asset files, AOE level 1, have you guys seen the scriptable object files before? I mean, they render to this in the inspector, but behind the scenes, they are a little bit similar to a JSON file. They're not exactly the same. Let's see if we can get it to open in something. So I'm very surprised that there's nothing by default associated with that. So I'll just go and pick something trusty like Atom and see what it looks like. We'll see the innards of a scriptable object file. There it is. So it's got a lot of mess in it. It's got all this stuff up here that binds it to different objects that have these UUIDs or GUIDs as they call them in the engine. The actual stuff, the actual meat is just there really. Radius 3, damage to each target 50, energy cost 50. So it's not as neat as a script, as a JSON file. The other thing we need to consider is if we're putting a lot of dialogue in here, what are we going to do if we change the data structure? How are we going to do what we call schema migration? I'm not going to double install this. So if I was to change these, the way that dialogue is set up, I want to make sure I can move my data from one form. Oops, excuse me, banging the microphone, from one format to another. Ah, man, I needed this water. Okay, that's cool. So we're going to have this inventory component. I'm trying to think in the absolute abstract, what we need it to do before we go with any preconceptions. By the way, there's some questions here, so let's have a look. Off topic, is the Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes event having one of the players in VR? I don't know if they did a non-VR version. You don't need VR, I don't think. I'm pretty sure you don't have to be in VR. If we do, I'll be in VR. I've got Vive and Rift. If not, we'll be not in VR just for, well, prevent being so sweaty in a headset. YAML's another possibility. It's very clean. It's yet another markup language, of course. Master Stapler. I have a question for him or anybody. I'm in Unity 3D Editor. For some reason, the shadows only draw when the editor view is really close to the given object. How do I change the LOD for the viewer? If one of you guys can try and help out with that, it'd be great so as not to distract me from what I'm doing, and then I'll come back to it if nobody has the answer. So I'm character A sitting here, and I want to talk to character B. And initially, we're not talking about branching dialogue, but we're just saying that B is, imagine, a quest giver, and I get into some sort of radius. And because I've got into that radius, B is going to, over the top of the screen, pop up some dialogue and start talking to me. And then presumably if I walk outside that radius, we decide how we disengage, whether we have like a kind of closed dialogue button here, or whether it just goes away because of the radius. Later, we've got to think about how do we trigger off this radius? Is it based on event? Is it based on inter-component communication, some other form? Not sure yet, but I'm just trying to think about the fundamentals. Before I go to my books, I've got a whole load of paradigms and patterns for dialogue. But before I start looking at how other people have done it, I tend to quite quickly look at how other people have done it. But a little bit before that, I tend to just go back to complete basics and say, if I was designing this from scratch, so I do start designing it from scratch, how would I do it? Then I go and look at how other people have done it, nearly invariably realize that the way they've done it is brilliant and there's a lot to learn from it, and then synthesize the kind of initial idealistic idea with how other people are doing things. So I'm still at the stage of like, how on earth does this even work? Not too worried about branching dialogue for right now. I'm just concerned that I look one step ahead. I'm not worried about the long-term details, but I'm concerned that I look one step ahead enough that I don't have to rip the thing completely apart when we do get to the next level of dialogue. So I'm trying to think what even the data structure, so one thing is what's the entity relationship diagram type of thing in this dialogue that we want in our game. How does it want to go? Is it a tree structure? Do we start with just the very basics just to get a feel for it? Because really, how we structure the data is going to depend on the sorts of twists and turns of dialogue that Rick is going to want to write into the story. So really, for now, it's pretty simple. It's just that a given character when a given other character, for the moment, typically the player, gets in range. So that's kind of ridiculously simple. Just looking at the chat there, yeah. By the way, with these sorts of streams, does some light, quiet music in the background help or hinder? Let us know in the chat what you think. Oh, one of these waters has got ice in it. I'm trying to work out which one, because that's great if it... That's the one with ice. That's what we want. Help or hinder, a little bit of music in the background with these slower streams where we're being a bit more kind of thoughtful and pensive and trying to get this going. I'm not going to write any code tonight. I'm too tired, but I will just lay the foundations and then smash into it slightly earlier in the day, in a day or two's time. Without music works for Twitch Dog. Oboe shape. Nice wink there. I'm liking that. So I think what I'm going to go with to start off is just a really simple scriptable object that just allows you in the inspector, very much like the way we define the damage on area effect weapons or any of the things on the special abilities, any of the other any of these things here, any of these scriptable objects. And we can have multi-line editor fields. We can specify the number of characters and lines in an editor field. I can't exactly remember how you do it, but it's very simple. There's a very simple attribute to put in Unity there. Then we can type on similar to a special ability, in that there'll be some generic stuff about dialogues, and then there'll be some specific things that you might want to change the behavior of a dialogue. So not worried about questing for the moment, not too worried about that. I think that questing is going to work through some sort of event queue system where you broadcast a message to say that you've started a quest and you put the quest on a queue, and then you track those quests. Not entirely sure how quests are going to work. It doesn't matter so much right now. Not all dialogue is going to be connected to quests. The first thing, text area attribute, that was the one. Thanks very much, Twitch Dog. Yeah, exactly. You just go text area. There's also max lines and min lines. That's it. So you can talk about the number of lines in the text area. Yeah, and then you just get a multi-line text, and that'd be okay for the most basic dialogue, right? I envision a tree structure of scriptable objects. TRIE? Do you mean TRIE? I'm presuming you just mean TREE. Perceptual lucidity games, unless I'm missing some technical term with TRIE. What is TRIE? I'm thinking you're being cleverer than I... Oh, that type of tree. Oh, okay. Yep. A radix tree isn't more I'd learn it to, and liken it to. You're probably right. You're probably right that would be a reasonably good data structure for this. And again, we're not quite at the point where we need to worry about what the data structure is. But yeah, no, it is tree. Yeah, that's really cool. I had seen that before, but I tended to call it a radix tree for whatever reason. So awesome. So yeah, I think this is going to go down initially with just simple radius triggered scripts, where our job is to have a simple scriptable object with a paragraph or 2 or 3 of text. Oh, that's a good point. We need to think about all of the different aspects. If it's going to be a two-way conversation, then that data all needs to be, both sides of that conversation need to be associated with the dialogue as a whole, but we also need to be able to handle that and write that easily in the inspector. So could get a bit ugly if we're not careful. We'll have to play with that and try actually writing some things and see how easy it is to write multi-line two-way dialogue that can be easily edited, and yet it's still obvious to keep an eye on what's going on. So mental difficulty, putting all this metadata, stories, conversations directly into the code, it seems weird to me. Yeah, it doesn't want to be in the code, Twitch Dog. You're quite right. That would be really weird. Being in scriptable objects in these data files is not really in the code, though, is it? It's just a serialization format going to the disk, right? So that's not in the code. Now, if you wanted to localize this and change it for a different language, you are totally at liberty to do that. So you could have, Ben dialogue _en for English, and then you could have Ben dialogue _ I don't know what the other codes are. DE is probably German or something like that. And there'd be separate SOs. So will the SOs be read at runtime or built into the EXE? That's a good question. I haven't looked at that yet. Not quite got up to the stage where we need to worry about that, because I'm confident in our data migration, right? I'm confident that we can. The first thing is I need to get it working to the point that Rick is happy that we have the from a design point of view, that we have the fluidity we need. Because with special abilities, he really said, I said, Rick, what do we want special abilities to do? And when I dug into it, he basically said anything. And so we had to create a very generic structure for that. So with this dialogue, we need to make sure that the early dialogue interactions and the way that Rick uses the editor, he's happy with. And then we'll worry about what's going to happen to that in terms of where that data is stored at runtime, as you say, whether it's in the EXE, how large it is. If it's just text, you could put all the languages in the EXE and not have a problem. But if you're starting to talk about sound files, of course, you need to start thinking about where's this data and which version of the game. I mean, we're not going to be multi-language localizing our game, but we do need to consider those things for you. How many of you guys are interested in localizing your game, both in terms of the text of the game and in terms of the voice of the game, out of interest? I won't wait for a response because the responses can be a little bit too slow. So I think what I'm going to focus on in the next stream is I'm going to focus on being able to just walk up to a quest giver effectively, have a two-way dialogue with them, because remember, we've got a load of work to do on the front end as well, totally decoupled from the back end. We're going to have to think about where in the game window is this dialogue going to pop up, what sort of window is going to come up, it's going to be the stylistic concerns, is it going to be fully opaque or is it going to be somewhat transparent, is it going to be, how's it dismissed, how do we move on, do we have scrolling, do we not have scrolling, how large a font do we have, does it kind of, the text just plop down, or does it come in like character by character or line by line? There's all of that view layer stuff to consider as well. And I like to consider it all and then deepen, rather than going, let's nail down the data structure, completely decouple it from the front end, and then somebody else can nail down the front end. Well, we're just like one or two people here. So we want to look at it holistically. And I think that the whole lot kind of ties together, because you might decide that, the speed at which dialogue comes out, if you decide to draw it character by character in a kind of old typewriter fashion, then that becomes part of the data of the dialogue as well. The speech rate becomes part of the data, affects the data structure, and you can see how the two are quite tied together. So in a tiny team like this, we can be really considerate of the whole thing. So therefore, I want to start with both the visual end and the underlying data structure, and then deepen those two things kind of together. So an ugly visual front end and an ugly data structure. Excuse the ugly data structure in the same way that you would excuse the ugly programmer art, and then as we deepen, we'll tidy up the art, polish the art, and then also polish the code. You can close the poll by clicking the small icon. Cool. I didn't know there was a poll, so I'm sorry if there was a poll on the stream. I didn't mean to have a poll on the stream. Is it just that there's a little poll icon there the whole time, or is there actually a poll running on the stream? I don't want there to be a poll running, so I'm just going to go into my poll software and just check that it's not actually running. So, but yeah, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is confirmed as an event for next Friday, which is fun. So just going to go into this voting studio. It's a bit awkward. I need to grab myself some URLs, get into these things a bit quicker. The thing I'm using is called Voting Studio, and it's a third and authenticate with Twitch. And I think I just never stopped that poll in the last thing. Yeah, I never stopped it. So we've got Factorio and Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes are completely equal. I've now closed the poll, 15 each. And we will ultimately probably do both of those. So thank you very much for all your votes on that. And there is an event, as I said, scheduled for Friday. The event lineup on our channel is starting to look quite good, I think. It's starting to look quite tight. So here it is. And the Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes is here. I'll give you the link in the chat. Great. And that poll should have ended. Maybe somebody can confirm. Wicked. All right. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some offline research between the videos. I may do it online, but it depends on the time of day. But I'll do some research between the videos about ways. Now we've got to the stage where it's like, okay, I've got an idea of what I'm going to do at the top level. Let's go read the book. Let's go look at the ways other people have done this, and then synthesize that information together, and then come up with an initial plan, which I think probably will, for simplicity, involve scriptable objects. and then we will find out how that feels inside the game. We'll come in together and put a very simple 2D front end to this, and then just start digging in and making progress on it, I think is the key. So I'm not going to do any of that to the project tonight, I don't think. The purpose of this stream, I better check the purpose. I always like to check the purpose. If I'm going to put a stream up, it's always good to make sure that I've achieved the things that I said I was going to. So now that we know that our first new feature will be what it will be, it's time to refactor our C# code. It is time to refactor, but I'll do that as I put the feature in. I'm not going to refactor my code just for the sake of refactoring my code, because refactoring it is going to break it a little bit. And when I break it, I want a reward for my risk, right? And I've got no reward yet. So so the next step is to go research different systems, have a look at some other people's ideas of dialogue, write down some things that I like, write down some things that I don't like, conceive my own initial first plan, and then go and attack it. And when I attack it and actually start doing that coding, that's when I will be refactoring as I go, to be clear. So I'm not going to refactor just for the sake of it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I'll have Visual Studio running, ready for the next stream, of course, which will be good. It's busy downloading like crazy. I'm going to commit the changes I've made. I've just made a few comments during what was it? What have we got? We're going to dialogue review. Okay, I'll push that over to stream 2. It's not really stream 2. Doesn't matter. I haven't started making the Udemy course yet. I'm going to do 1 or 2 more streams, and then I'm going to start, when I finish the streams the next day during my early hours in the UK, I'm going to start building the Part 2 Udemy course, and it'll be really interesting to see how that goes. This is going to be a fast-track course that will still get you there with your RPG, but there will be just a much more, look, go try and do it yourself, come back and watch me and I'll show you how we did it, but not in all the detail of these streams. These streams are going to be very long. They're going to be hundreds of hours of talking and discussion and really digging in behind to the thought process. Just me doing it and thinking out loud is slowing me down a bit, but it may be a question of slowing down it's probably slowing me down a lot right now. But as I get used to streaming and get used to what you guys want, I think that I'll slow down to speed up. That is, I'll get more traction. I'll be able to work slower initially, but in doing so produce stronger foundations that I can build on quicker later, if that makes sense. I should get a compounding effect, I hope. If I don't, we'll replan. So the idea is I stream, and then in my mornings I start putting content into the Unity course, the RPG course, until such time as Rick and Sam are available to take over the project, and then I will leave it to them. But that could be many weeks from now, because it will be many, many weeks from now, because they've got lots to do. So I'm just going to take a few questions right now in the chat, if there are any, and then I think I'm going to sign off for the evening, and then we will look forward to the next stream. I'm not sure exactly what the next one is. Let's have a look. I need to make a few more, by the way, so keep an eye on the events page, because there are going to be some more for the RPG. I need to put a lot more hours into this RPG now that we're starting to get off the ground, slowly getting into it. So any questions, concerns, anything else? And if not, I will end up the stream. We've been going nearly an hour, which is, keep it short for this evening, I think, being a Saturday evening. Oh, and also, what do you guys got planned this evening? I think it's Saturday evening for a lot of people, or Saturday day, maybe early, very, very early Sunday morning, maybe from Australians. But what do you guys got planned? Oh, okay, so Jason's saying there's no way you'll be ready for a code review on Tuesday. Yeah, I'm hoping we manage to get enough people for the code review on Tuesday. If we don't, we'll do our own code review of some internal work between us, some instructors' code, etc. But it would be great if somebody, at least one of you, could be ready on Tuesday for a simple code review. Your code doesn't need to be in beautiful state. It'd be better if it was pretty warts and all, just how you write code, because that lets us see the habits that you're forming, and then we can have a discussion about that. So, Big Trouble in Little China. Wow, that's some years ago. Have to catch up with Rick's changes on Unity 2D. Yeah, he's been super busy. I love how this chat is all subscribers tonight. Thank you very much, everybody, by the way, for being subscribers. It's really helping to make this Twitch stuff feel like it's worth it. And yeah, thank you for being here. So, yeah. Keep an eye on the lineup. I'll be putting more RPG streams in. For your code review, if you are Jason Lee, I'm not sure if you're a tier 3 subscriber. Can you just confirm? Because you can probably confirm a little bit quicker than I can. I can look on the homepage. Yes, you are, Jason Lee Dev. In fact, you're the most recent Tier 3 subscriber that we've put on the homepage. It doesn't matter, any code in any language. I wouldn't say any language. I would say C#, C++, Python, GD script. They would be the main ones. Any code in those languages that you're working on, that you've written recently, we'd love to review with you. And it'd be better if you didn't prepare it or sanitize it or polish it. We'd like to learn from you what your reasons for doing things, and then challenge you with our view on things. And by our, I mean Sam and I. So between us, we've got a pretty large wealth of programming experience and theory, and we would love to help you with that, to challenge you, to consider new ways of doing things, and really just to look in and see what code flows out of you. So don't worry. Elementary is good, Jason Lee Dev. That's fine. This is the best time for us to intervene and help you with your coding habits. The more elementary it is, the better. And Re-Suge, I think that's something like that. Just subscribe to Twitch Prime. Thank you very much. Awesome to have you here. Glad for you to take a little bit of your time out on a Saturday to come and watch our technical stream. So awesome. Just crank Rick up to 2x speed. Yeah, what do you mean? Crank him up to 2x speed? You mean in terms of when you're watching the videos, right? You need to crank him up to 2x speed. Not that we should make him produce videos twice as fast. Cool. All right, guys, I'm going to wind this down now. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. The next event on the page is bound to be on Monday, knowing us. We're sadists at the moment. We're putting out events all the time. What do we got? The foundations of dialogue is what I'm saying, apparently. So on Monday, yeah. So actually, I've done sort of today what I was supposed to do on Monday, which is explore the options and lay the foundations of dialogue. I got slightly ahead of myself in one way, so that's cool. I will, between now and then, make sure that I actually write some code on that stream. It's going to be late in the day, so it's possible I'll have written some code in the day, and I'll take you through it. That should be fine as well. Obviously, in the Unity courses, that's not what, in the Udemy courses, rather, those two words, they're going to be the bane of my life forever. They sound so similar. I say Unity or Udemy, I start the UN bit, and then I go on autopilot. Anyway, those courses are going to be the bane, and those words are going to be the bane of my life. The Udemy course won't show you code and then recap what we did, I don't think, because every time we've done that in the past, people haven't liked it. So we're going to need to write the code with you, but without all of the meandering as to how we got to that code. We'll go straight to the refactored code and just justify it. Okay, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. You can, please, Perceptual Lucidity Games, do post a link here in the chat as well to the current state of your RPG in the RPG Showcase, because there's some amazing games over there that put ours to shame, so that would be great to see. All right, cool. It'd be good if some of you guys hooked up together as well. You talk about working, game jamming and stuff like that. Why not use the chat? Why not use the subscriber chat maybe for that, to talk to each other over in the subscriber room and to organize things about working together, which would be awesome. I don't dive too much into the subscriber chat, by the way. It's for you guys to talk to each other, but you've got a group of like-minded peers there. It could be awesome for you to start doing some work together. So I think I'll keep this broadcast to under an hour. Thanks for being there, guys, and I will see you on the next one in about 24 hours' time, a bit less. Okay, see you later.